I have Senator Griffo in early, and I want to go to him next if we could because, I don't know, he's been up all night long. Well, you can't be happy with this guy right now.
No, I'm very disappointed and very frustrated, Bill. Especially after all these years of the brand that he's established, talking about the importance and the significance of being able to function and to restore competency back to government. And I just think this is it's a very poor display of all of that right now, and some of it could have been avoided, in my opinion, based on the incorporation of very contentious policy issues that are put into this document. Now, that's not to say it hasn't been done in the past, but I thought he learned and understood the significance and importance of the deadline and what the document means to communities and organizations across the state. I mean, there's enough culpability that can be shared in this, but I'm really disappointed and frustrated. It's we're starting opening days of the new baseball season. I'll use an old Yogi Berraism today. It's deja vu all over again.
Yeah. What do you? I mean, some of these guys in this IDC, the Independent Democratic Conference, is it? I mean, we're getting that they're holding out on this issue of raise the age, and they're not budging, and that's really what's holding this whole thing up.
No, it really was interesting because this is something that it happens here a lot. You're close to a deal, then you don't have a deal. You try to bring consensus in, and we've moved significantly on that raise the age issue because I don't believe that should have been dealt in the budget. That's a session issue outside of the budget. But having said that, in good faith, people try to negotiate. We want work on raise the age, and that's a pretty difficult subject to explain. But we're working with the DAs like Scott McNamara because our concern is to protect the community's public safety and victim rights. We also understand the need for these young offenders and to take a look at this and do things differently. So what happened that you're describing is interesting because on Sunday morning I had gone to church here in Albany, and coming back I thought we had the signs of an agreement. And we go into session and gavel in, and all of a sudden the IDC and the mainline Democratic Conference don't come in. I think it was in a show of solidarity, the mainline Democratic Conference, and they were trying to put pressure on the IDC, so the IDC couldn't come in. It became gamesmanship, political gamesmanship.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, we went through a whole day with nothing happening. In fact, on this raise the age issue, and the assemblyman can tell you this, they never briefed their conference on the issue. They were giving them snippets from time to time of what was happening. Last night was the first time that the Democratic Majority Conference got a full briefing on raise the age as a result of the negotiations. And that was really unsettling and alarming, quite honestly, because had that been discussed earlier and presented to their conference, there may have been an opportunity to arrive at a consensus.
Now, we were told this morning that this is not anything new. This has been proposed for the third straight year by the governor, and that it's been debated on, and this should be an issue that's resolved at this point.
It should be, but again, we were the resistance came from us. First of all, we didn't believe it was something that should be in the budget, and then secondly, over the last couple of years, and secondly, while we were sensitive to the issue, we had differences, obviously.
Yeah.
But my point is, we have really done a lot of work to come to where we are today, and that's in consultation with people that we feel comfortable with that are protecting our community, like law enforcement, the DAs, and we thought we had a good compromise, and apparently at this point it didn't work, and it's unfortunate because there's so many important issues. First of all, like, I'm a supporter of Uber. We've passed the bill, but that was in the budget too, and you can make an indirect connection fiscally, but it's ridiculous. That's another issue that could have been dealt with outside the issue. So now you have all these issues swirling within this document and trying to reach agreement. The other thing here, Bill, is it's outrageous. It's almost cruel and unusual punishment for the staff. I mean, they're going out almost continually without sleep. How is that good for public policy? When you think about that.
You're not getting paid. The legislators aren't getting paid.
We are not getting paid.
Does your staff get paid?
Staff gets paid,
okay.
Yes. So is the governor. The governor's getting paid, too.
Right. Of course he is.
Well,
but this is...
Does he need the money?
Well, one would wonder.
He's not... Even if he didn't get paid, it's not like he's going to bounce checks or something.
Or he'll just pick up a state police helicopter and fly across wherever he wants to go. Okay, so, Joe, do you see resolution? Anthony Brindisi on earlier this morning, and he brings up a very valid point. We talked to Dr. Timms yesterday about this, and that is school districts are going to be voting in May and they're not going to know what they're voting on. They're going to have to estimate, and chances are they're going to have to cut back, which will mean probably layoffs. Can this get done before in time for the school budgets?
Look, I'm hopeful that it's going to get done. I hope it gets done as soon as possible. The difference is you can't just keep people here. Like all weekend, we're left here, and we're that close, and then it all falls apart. So you need to put it together, then get everybody here. You can't just keep one of my bills is to keep everybody here until you get a budget, but that doesn't seem to work for some reason, because even though everybody's here, it doesn't work. So they've really just got to go in there and roll up their sleeves and get this done, bring it back to the conferences. We're supposedly so close, like 95% of this has all been agreed to. In fact, we were going to begin voting on bills on Sunday in the Senate if they had not given us a quorum. We did not have a quorum in the Senate because of the IDC and the mainline Democratic Conference. To answer your question, though, yes, that's a concern that needs to be addressed. The good thing is that the funding is there till the end of the school year, so they have their current funding, so there's not going to be any lapse there. But yes, they have to prepare. And it's all these other issues, too. This is just unfortunate because, again, this is a governor who has talked about the importance of meeting the budget deadline and functionality.
Well,
so he needs to really engage, again, step it up with his leadership, too, and bringing all the sides here to the table. I'm not saying he hasn't worked hard on this. Because I know that he's been in all these meetings, and so I want to say that too, because it would be unfair to not indicate that he has been engaged. From the beginning. The problem is you got to get it over the goal line.
So you're right that the schools are funded through the end of their fiscal year, but the problem is this is the vote for next year's budget. So they're going to have to estimate, which means they're going to have to go work off last year's numbers, which are going to be too low, which means. Utica is going to be looking at a huge deficit if they go forward that way, and it's going to mean layoffs again.
Yeah, the concern I have also that what the governor is trying to do, and I don't agree with this right now, is he keeps pointing to the uncertainty in Washington. Now, there's definitely uncertainty there, but they haven't passed a budget. I think they've passed 4 budgets in 40 years. So for him to say that we want to wait to see what the numbers are in Washington is equally as alarming, because that may be a proposal, and he may try to go cut even further. So when you're talking about education funding, as you know, his funding, we felt, was inadequate, and both the Senate and the Assembly have put more money forward. I'm not sure what the final number will be, but that's also going to be another issue now, and he keeps turning to Washington, and to me that's a distraction, that you have to be aware of what's happening there and vigilant as you're preparing, but we're prepared ultimately later to come and adjust if the need is, but you can't just look at projections and proposals and say, I'm going to develop a document accordingly.
How much does these 8 members, these 8 Democrats, they're extremely important to your majority. How much of a stranglehold do they have on you guys right now?
Well, obviously they're important in any vote. In fact, on appropriation bills, and that's what a budget is, you need at least 40 people
you gotta have them
in the House. So if they're not in the chamber and if they're not voting together, you only need, it becomes very difficult, very challenging. So we'll see what happens, but it's more. It's not just that. That isn't the issue in the Senate, because the Senate actually eventually convened, and we passed the extender, and actually it passed significantly with votes from both sides of the aisle because of the concern about the operations of state government. But
the extender still
this intransience right now. The Speaker has to deliver his conference. Assemblyman has been very good. Him and I have been talking regularly. Actually, they should take a page from the way we conduct ourselves and work together, and maybe we'd really get some things done here.
At the end of the day, though, the extender is what's going to be the real problem for school districts.
Absolutely. Because it's still not going to give any clarity as to where we're going to be ultimately.
All right, Joe, interesting. Well, we'll be hopeful that maybe something could come through this week. Who knows?
Hopeful. And if not, we've got to do this as quick as possible, because now you're coming on Passover and Easter over the next 2 weeks. So to me, this is, you know me, and I just am so frustrated. I get not only disappointed, but disgusted by the manner and method in which we undertake such an important responsibility.
Yeah. All right, Joseph, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
All right, take care.
The Senator Joe Griffo, quick break. We'll come right back.